Welcome to the Gottesdienst crowd, where we foster confessional integrity, liturgical preservation, and preaching that doesn't stink. We believe that the historic liturgy of the divine service is more than mere cobwebs of antiquity, but it is a true treasure of the Church, to be dusted off and brought down from her attic to be enjoyed. So let's get dusting.
Welcome back to the Gottesdienst crowd. This is Jason Braaten. Today we have back with us Dave Petersen. Welcome back, Dave.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We are looking at the Gospel reading for the second Sunday in Lent, also known as Reminiscere. It comes from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 15, verses 21 to 28, and I will read that in the English Standard Version. And Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and was crying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon." But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came and begged him, saying, "Send her away, for she is crying out after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered, "It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "O woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire." And her daughter was healed instantly. Okay, so context in the Gospel of Matthew.
I don't know. I didn't even look at that.
We've covered that a number of times, so you can listen to old podcasts. Anything in the translation that you wanted to...
Well, what about this? Have we ever talked about this kakos that's translated severely?
Probably not.
I mean, I wonder why. I didn't look that up either. I mean, that, of course, means wickedly or evilly or something. I mean, it's not a term of degree of comparison. Mm-hmm. I mean, but I suppose. I mean, how is it? I mean, how are you possessed by a demon in a way that's not evil? So I wonder what that adjective. I wonder that's probably why it's related translated severely. I don't know. It's
not an adjective, is it? Kakos, isn't it an adverb?
Oh, I'm sorry. I that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yeah. So yeah, evilly, right, or wickedly, right. Ly are adverbs, not adjectives. Anyway, the corresponding one, the other kind of word that sort of, it seems like I was following along in Greek when you're reading this, because you have kalos is used in verse 26 that Jesus says it's translated right. Mm-hmm. But it's, it is not proper, maybe. It is not beautiful. Good. It is not good even. So you kind of have that kakos and then kalas or kalan.
Yeah. It's to say it's not right. It's not appropriate. It's not well ordered.
Right. No, that's a good translation. I was okay. I just was sort of seeing them and maybe somehow parallel.
Yeah. Severely oppressed, like the kakos could be, wrongly.
I like that. Yeah, wrongly oppressed. That would change the flavor of the thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So it's it's out of order. It's disordered.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he suggests that helping her would also be out of order.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's it on the translation. I mean,
well, what would that do? Like, so if you focused on this, the disorder of the whole thing, I mean, does he break his order?
Well, I mean, he's challenging her, but right, because that she's correct, right? The demons, this is not their place. They're not supposed to be possessing people. I mean, angels aren't supposed to be oppressing
She's
people.
A Canaanite, man.
I know, but she's still a human made originally in the image of God.
Well, yes, but she's of a people that call upon the demons. What would you expect?
Yeah. Well, she would expect the same mercy that was given to Bathsheba and Tamar and other Rahab. And, yeah, I mean that's the kind of argument that they're having, right? And she's making this appeal to the original creation and to his promises, and he's pretending that he doesn't, understand and
that he's a unfrozen caveman lawyer.
Right.
I'm just a caveman. I don't know. I think there's something there that he's acknowledging and pressing back against her because of he's challenging whether it is really wrongly oppression.
Right. I know. I think that's right. He is making this case that she deserves it, and I mean, I think that goes along with this terminology of dog, also.
Yeah.
This is the appropriate term for Canaanites in a sense. And is she willing to accept this kind of judgment?
Yes, and she does, and that's the beauty of it.
That's
right?
Exactly right. Yeah, but she does not accept the judgment that it would be disordered for her to it would be disordered for her to get the children's bread, perhaps.
Yes,
but she's not after the children's bread.
Right.
She's after his bread, and she doesn't even need to sit at the table.
Yeah. No, she doesn't want to steal from them.
Right. She's not after their bread. I love that. Mm-hmm. So I found this, we can launch into this. I read another sermon by Thomas Aquinas, these little sermons. They're so interesting, but they're kind of terrible because he's just
a papist.
He's terrible, but I love him. So I reworked it completely again but the whole idea kind of comes from him. So I broke this out. It's kind of following his or his ideas, but in a Lutheran way. So first of all, this question: how do the demons afflict us? That's not his question. That's mine. And then I've got how many do they have? Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4 ways. So the first attack, the main attack, is always false doctrine. The demons seek to blind us to the truth and to render us mute as to the truth. And so here we have this passage from Aquinas, Matthew 12. The one who was brought to him was demon-possessed, blind and mute, and he healed him so that the blind and mute man both spoke and saw. Now, I know that's a very allegorical reading of that, but I think it's appropriate that, this isn't simply a physical oppression. And I'm saying it's the main attack, not Aquinas. Next, the second attack is to destroy sanctification. And so they seek to destroy virtue. And they're ever changing their attacks, at one time kindling the flame of desire and then seeking to drown us in the water of luxury. And this ever-changing attack renders the victim a kind of lunatic. Lunatic comes from a person who changes like the phases of the moon. Mm-hmm. And you don't know what he's going to do next. So Matthew 17:15, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic and suffers severely, for he often falls into the fire and often into the water. I like it. The third attack is physical and social sorrows. Demons afflict us with physical discomfort and drive us to act in shameful ways. This comes from Luke 8:27. When Jesus stepped out on the land, there met him a certain man from the city who had demons for a long time, and he wore no clothes, nor did he live in a house, but in the tombs. And then the final attack is self-harm and guilt. They vex us with self-inflicted wounds, physical, mental, and spiritual. He griefs and anguishes which sinners often suffer by inflicting upon themselves. 2 passages. Mark 5, that parallel from Luke 8, the guy among the tombs. Always night and day, the man with the unclean spirit was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. And Jeremiah 2, your own wickedness will correct you, and your backslidings will rebuke you. Know, therefore, and see that it is an evil and bitter thing that you have forsaken the Lord your God, and the fear of me is not in you. So I like this idea of seeing that the demons are attacking with a kind of multi-pronged attack, and seeing this in the actual demon possessions in the Gospels.
Mm-hmm. What was the second one that you mentioned?
Second one is that they just, and I ranked these in the order I think they go. This isn't Aquinas' order, nor is it his language. The second one's they destroy sanctification because it's he's a lunatic who suffered, throwing him into the fire and into the water. So at one time they're encouraging kind of vices, right? And then the other time they're encouraging luxuries. Either way, they're destroying sanctification. And I think there's a lot of actual sanctification in this text, somewhat because of the epistle, but also, and this is also based on this Aquinas sermon. So that was the first part, the kind of character of demonic attacks. And I think, so what I think you could do with this that would be useful for our hearers is to lay out how the things that they are suffering are actually demonic, right? That the guilt which they feel, right? Luther, it seems to me like the main attack Luther sees the devil engaged in is despair. He creates despair. So, you're feeling sad, you're feeling guilty, you're feeling unworthy, you have imposter syndrome, all that stuff. The demons are fostering this, cultivating this, encouraging it. And, also trying to get you to sin, not only to create guilt, but also to hurt yourself. So, and then to see, this, he wore no clothes, right? That they actually make us uncomfortable, physically. They create difficulties. But there's more to it than just the being cold, because you don't have any clothes. There's also, the kind of social sorrows what did I have from this? Yeah. The sort of also social sorrows. He doesn't have a house. He's acting in a way that then people don't like him because of the way that he behaves.
Yeah, they make us bear our shame.
Right. So sin actually, it hinders friendship. It hinders love because, we don't want to put some clothes on, man. We don't like being around you when you're naked and, when your sins are shown. So, all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, this whole emphasis, if they can't get your doctrine, that would be the best way to get you, right? To teach you false things about God, that you would worship them. But they'll go after sanctification. They'll go after virtues. If they can get you to behave in a way that is contradictory to your faith, they will destroy your faith from the outside in. But again, the main thing is, I think, false doctrine. The devil sows error.
Yeah. Well, that's the remarkable thing as you read Luther. He's always seeing Satan and the demons behind all of the ills of our society and the ills that we bear.
Right.
Something that, we don't point out as much in terms of it being just demonic. When I think I've had it come up, in my Bible class or just in discussion with people where, the whole transgender thing and all that language changes and all that sort of thing. And I think at one point I said, yes, this is demonic. This is the work of demons. And they looked at me like, what? And I'm like, look, this is false. And this is false teaching. This is false doctrine. It's changing our language.
Right.
And this is what the demons do.
Right. And it's all of these attacks are sort of happening simultaneously because for sure they're teaching false doctrine, about what the world is, what we are, what the image of God is, and so forth. But they're also, right, they are kindling the fire of illicit desire also. There is a sexual immorality component to it. They are bearing shame. People, right, the people that are suffering this are not, they do not have the peace that passes all understanding. They are disturbed, unhappy, desperate, right?
So would this be a boxing out in this kind of sermon, or would this be the bulk of it?
Well, I think you could just talk. I don't think it has to be a boxing out. I think you could talk about what is it? How do the demons oppress us? How do the demons attack us? What does it look like? And it's a kind of catechesis to recognize the spiritual warfare that we are involved in, even though we, we don't always recognize it as such.
So then what is the corresponding contradiction or remedy?
Well, I mean, I think so. If we sort of think about the woman's faith here, right? She believes that demons are real. I mean, that's actually a first step. That to actually realize we have an enemy that we cannot defeat on our own, right? But she also then believes that Jesus loves her and has authority over the demons. So, she does not fear those who can only kill the body, but she fears Jesus. And then finally, this sort of last part of faith is that she believes that Jesus will cast out the demon and receive both her and her daughter, right? She expects good from God. She expects him to somehow include her in his family, to love her, to forgive her, to save her and her daughter. That, that this is a wrong oppression in the end, because even though in a sense she deserves it, this is not the proper place of angels to be behaving in this way. And Christ has come to defeat them. So I think that's the antidote.
It's a wrong oppression because it's not what the angels were created for.
Right. Or what we were created for.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, it's not that she doesn't deserve, punishment for her sins.
Yeah.
But this isn't the way, this is all, and this isn't, this contradicts the mercy that endures forever. I mean, the character of God. So yeah, I think first of all, I think the part of the antidote is just recognizing that it's real spiritual warfare, that we need to take it seriously. And then that leads us right into, right, this woman models quite a few virtues. I count 7 virtues. I mean, I'm not counting faith as a virtue. Faith is the substantial reality that is behind and drives all others. So she has humility. I mean, that's astounding, right? Yet even the dogs eat the bread.
Yeah.
So humility is significant here. And I've come in more and more to think that pride is the kind of root sin that is idolatry that's behind all other things. So anyway, humility. Second, she prays, and prays in 2 ways. She has intercessory prayer. My daughter is severely possessed by a demon. She also prays for herself, unashamedly. Have mercy on me, O Lord, and then, Lord, help me. So she's not, she's not coming with this kind of self-righteousness that is just concerned about other people. Oh, I don't need anything from God. I just care about the lost. Or whatever, or I don't care about, I want to make sure everybody else is served first. This kind of, when we're talking about, when we're coming to God, we always need help, and we should be unashamed to ask for it. So she's a great model of that, this prayer, both for other people, but also for herself.
So is this kind of prayer where she's praying for herself, is this in some way a confession of her own wrongdoing?
Could be. I mean, it's also, that's for sure a possibility. How did this woman's daughter come to be possessed by a demon? Did she fail to protect her?
Yeah.
Or whatever. But it can also be, and it would still be appropriate, even if it was simply that the woman realizes she's way over her head,
Yeah.
And this is dangerous territory, and we don't want to be monkeying around with demons at all. We do not have this. We are not smart enough or strong enough or faithful enough to face the demons. We only do so with Jesus. I mean, we do so with Jesus in absolute confidence in him, but aware of the peril that we're facing, right? Or the possibility and the capacity that we have to be corrupted quickly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Number 3, she's patient, which is, of course, related to humility, but also how she conducts this prayer, that she patiently endures the crosses that God has given. She doesn't become bitter and angry that she's suffered this terrible thing, but instead, she prays. And then, of course, she also endures the seeming reproaches and rebukes and terrible things that he says and doesn't give up. And that brings us to the 4th virtue, hope, which is also, again, related to her humility and her patience, and is kind of part of her her prayer, but also kind of part of her patience, that she doesn't quit believing when experience seems to contradict the promises.
Yeah.
Because that's you kind of have this where, well, this is what the Bible says. And so reason says God is stronger than the devil. He doesn't want the devil to win, right? The Bible says this. But then this is not the way that her experience is carrying out. Mm-hmm. And this is really, in some ways, hope is the willingness to look a fool in the eyes of the world. Noah building the ark. And closely related to that, perseverance. She doesn't cease asking, right? Yeah. Until she has obtained what she knew was good. And she's willing to adjust the prayer as more is revealed to her, but she doesn't quit praying. She doesn't give up. She knows what is good. That is that her daughter be relieved of this demon, and she and the daughter be accepted into the family of God.
Yeah. I mean, you could include that under the patience, too.
I know, but I wanted to get 7 virtues, so that was 5. Lots of these can be combined. I mean, they are, of course, always interrelated.
Right.
They don't exist in a vacuum. So I got number 6, she worships, right? She came and worshiped him, even in the midst of these sorrows, which again, right, playing out these other things. That's perseverance, that's hope, that's... and then finally, she clings to the actual words of Jesus in their details. The dogs, right, eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. So she finds hope in what Jesus says, even when what he said seemed to be a denial of what she wanted and a denial of her as a person. She holds to the words. I mean, that is the real genius of her faith ultimately. So, but all of this, I think, kind of thinking about it that way, thanks to Aquinas, is that her faith is exhibited in virtue. Her faith saves her, but it is exhibited in good works, right? Is shown to the world, and it changes the world.
Yeah.
Right? And it's good for her, and it's good for her daughter, and it's good for us, really good for us all these years later. So we have the same faith, and I think we could say and should say that we should emulate her virtue.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know what they were. Oh, humility, prayer, patience, hope, perseverance, worship, and clinging to the word.
I think that is a really great point, that she clings to the word in detail.
Yeah.
Often we just let the words kind of roll off of our backs instead of actually pondering them.
Yes.
And seeing what gold is in them.
Yeah, we're the king of bumper sticker theology and summaries. And, well, we got the point. We don't need the details, which is so awful. It's irreverent. If God is actually speaking and has inspired every jot and tittle, then every jot and tittle matters. And we ought to pay very close attention to it, and we ought to love it. So we ought to be people of particularity, and it's the general kind of thing that would have sent her the wrong way, right? If she would not have clung to the details of the words and, endured in faith and hope, she would have said, this isn't what my God is like, therefore Jesus is not my God.
Right. Yeah.
Which we hear from people. I hear this, you brought up the transgender stuff, people that are struggling with that sort of mental illness and pain. That's the kind of thing they'll say. They'll say, well, the only thing that will sort of satisfy and make me happy is this particular circumstance. And I know that that's what, God wants me to be satisfied and at peace. Therefore, if something in the Bible says is contradictory to that, then the Bible's not trustworthy.
Right.
And he can't be my God. The God of the Bible's not my God. Well, you've just declared yourself to be a pagan. You're not, you don't get to choose your own God and design him according to your lusts or or even if there even needs. I mean, so yeah, the details are, and the glories in the details.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, you get that sense as you read Luther too, particularly on his lectures on portions of the Bible. You know, he can take one word and he will expound and expound upon that. And so basically, like, you know, in Galatians, when he talks about at the very beginning, St. Paul uses some sort of a pronoun like my gospel or something like that. And Luther spends a whole long time discussing this pronoun, like we should see ourselves in the my or the we or something like that, to really chew on that, how we might just read that introduction and totally pass over it. And he spends pages poring over this.
Right. We're going through Genesis in Sunday morning Bible class, and I've been working through Luther's lectures again. And we just finished Genesis 23. So right after the binding of Isaac, you get the death of Sarah, the buying of the cave, right? And I thought, well, okay, great. You know, not much to see here. We ought to be able to cover this quickly. You know, Luther goes on and on. He sees all of these sort of lessons in there about, the right of priests to buy land and the goodness of paying the priests, that they be taken care of, and how to mourn properly and how to bury the dead, and what it means to have the only thing that Abraham owns in the world, in the promised land, is a grave. I mean, it was really, it was beautifully done. I mean, it wasn't where I was looking for or expecting, lots of things, but Luther, because he loves it so much, he takes it so seriously. It never occurs to him that these are just details of a story.
Right.
That, okay, that's what happened. For Luther, it's very much God is speaking here, and he's teaching us what the world is like, what we are like in him, everything, right?
Yeah.
The whole counsel of God is there in Genesis 23, including messianic hope. Why would he bury her except that he expects her to rise from the dead? Things like that. Anyway, I'm just concurring with you. I think your analysis of Luther is correct. He does delight in these things, and he's a great model for us in that regard.
Yeah, he really is. It's it's fun to read Luther on those things when he just starts expounding, and it gives you pause as you begin reading, the Bible again. That, hey, I should kind of slow down and think about this. And not that there's anything wrong with doing big gulps of reading, but we should have kind of both kinds, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. There's a time to read the Bible just as history.
Yeah.
Just read it, just to know the story, the outline of it, the general sense of it, what happened. So I think there is a place for that, but that's not the deepest. That's not contemplation or meditation. And there's a place. I mean, we need to do both, just like you said.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to take us into the epistle a little bit with this sanctification idea.
Oh, yeah.
So it's 1 Thessalonians 4, 1-7. Finally, then, brethren, we urge and exhort in the Lord Jesus that you should abound more and more, just as you receive from us how you ought to walk and to please God. For you know what commandments we gave you through the Lord Jesus. For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality, that each of you should know how to possess his own vessel in sanctification and honor, not in passion of lust like the Gentiles who do not know God, that no one should take advantage of and defraud his brother in this matter, because the Lord is the avenger of all such, as we also forewarned you and testified, for God did not call us to uncleanness, but in holiness. So there's some really great stuff in here, but right at the beginning, this that you should abound, that's a present subjunctive, that's where the should comes from. Parasuo is to abound or to increase, and then more and more. And that exact language, except in the indicative, present indicative, is repeated by Paul in verse 10. So we only read through verse 7, but in verse 10, he's going to say that concerning brotherly love, we urge you that you increase more and more, and that you also aspire to lead a quiet life. Whoops, I lost my pages here. I'm sorry, that you aspire to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, and to work with your own hands, that you may walk properly toward those who are outside, and that you may lack nothing. Mm-hmm. So you take these two together, we've got, obviously you've got explicitly sanctification. This is the will of God. We are actually exhorted to increase it by our own efforts, mm-hmm. not by our efforts alone, but by our efforts. Right? This isn't a purely passive activity, that you should abound, just as you've received to us how you ought to walk and to please God. And that walk language was also, included there. And then sanctification. So here's the list. Here's the will of God, your sanctification. 1, abstain from sexual immorality. So we're often accused these days of being prudes or of putting too much emphasis upon sexual sins. But here you see it's at the top of this particular list because it is so destructive and so dangerous. Mm-hmm. And then 2, that each of you should know how to possess his own vessel in sanctification and honor, not in passion of lust, like the Gentiles who do not know God. I like that little caveat there, like the Gentiles who do not know God, which would exclude the Canaanite woman, right? Mm-hmm. She does know God. But again, right, there should be this, how we conduct ourselves. And then the final thing is a charge against antinomianism, right? Mm-hmm. That no one should take advantage of and defraud his brother in this matter. What matter? Sanctification. No one should teach you that sanctification is inferior, insignificant, not part of the Christian life, not really. I mean, we've talked about this, but when I look back at my own past, there's so much to be ashamed of. But I do remember boasting about being weak on sanctification. I hope I would never do that again. That was dumb. It was childish. We shouldn't. I mean, look, no one should take it. No one should defraud his brother in this matter. This is the will of God, that mm-hmm. we live this way. And because if the Lord is the avenger of all such who are defrauded and taken advantage of in this way, mm-hmm. we also forewarned you. Then you go down to the next section, which isn't included, in the lectionary, but those next verses, starting in verse 9, concerning brotherly love, that you increase more and more, and then verse 11, that you also aspire. That's a great word, phil to my. Which I think is a combination of philia and honor. So mm-hmm. to aspire there. And what are we to aspire to? To lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, and to work with your hands, that you may walk properly, walk again. So I think it's interesting to think about that for a few minutes at least. Just what does it mean to lead a quiet life? I think it means drama-free. What I mean by that is it means not drawing attention to yourself, not demanding attention from other people. Mm-hmm. When we think about sort of the way we use that language in modern context, right? Oh, she's a drama queen. What it means is she's always kind of drawing attention to herself and demanding that we respond to something. Mm-hmm. I think that's the opposite of leading a quiet life. A quiet life would be calm, gentle, not assuming, not demanding of other people all the time. Number 2, to mind your own business. That's pretty straightforward, I think. Don't be a gossip. Put the best construction on things, right? Yep. So how you actually are behaving and talking. And then the final one is maybe the most significant for us in our age, to work with your own hands. I think we should take this very literally, that part of what we were meant for, right, to increase more and more in brotherly love. That's the point of this. To increase more and more in brotherly love, not only do we need to resist being drama queens and to resist being gossips or not putting the best construction on other people's actions, we also need to actually engage our bodies and work with our hands, plant some mm-hmm. carrots, whatever, paint a painting, sing a song. I think we need to be engaged in creation, in creative acts. And I don't mean by that inventiveness necessarily, right? I think making a peanut butter sandwich is a creative act. It doesn't have any originality in it, but it's actually bringing order out of something that is purposeful. So, and particularly, of course, if you're making this peanut butter sandwich for someone else, but any kind of act of actually order out of disorder. So that could be painting. I mean, I think things that we do think of as normally being sort of creative, but I would include crafts along with art. I make a distinction between those things, which is maybe arbitrary, but nonetheless I do. Also then, so sort of we think of creative arts, but like visual arts and musical arts. But one of the other things that gets kind of neglected amongst us, I think, is storytelling. That we kind of outsource that, right? We sit and just like we consume music, we consume stories, and we let professionals do it. We watch movies or we read novels. We don't tell stories, and I think we need to tell our family stories. We need to know the history of things, right? We need to tell, of course, Bible stories, but I think also there is a certain place for new stories. So classical literature, and good literature. So anyway, that's, I think, all kind of related there, to walk properly in brotherly love and to increase in it. But I think there's some relationship here in all of this talk. I mean, I'm expecting that's why this epistle was assigned to the Syrophoenician woman. Or what are we calling her? Are we calling her that, or are we calling her the Canaanite woman?
Well, it's
Canaanite
Matthew.
here? It's
Canaanite.
Okay,
right?
Sorry about that. I keep switching back and forth.
What? Yeah, it's fine.
It's the same woman.
Right.
It is interesting that this would be paired with that. And the Old Testament reading is Jacob wrestling with God. Mm-hmm. So it seems like you've got the kind of the sort of fortitude side with Jacob, right? That to resist, to accept pain, to accept difficulty, to not shrink away from it.
Yeah.
And then with the epistle, you've got a little more of temperance, right? Mm-hmm. So avoiding sexual immorality is a task of temperance. Enduring pain is a task of fortitude.
Yeah. Okay. So the purpose of going into this is in preparation for Lent, or just building up their understanding of what sanctification is and how one actually works on it to kind of get away from the purely passive understanding of it that has been so prevalent?
Yeah, I think so. This idea that we actually would be involved in these things, making conscious choices, and according to the Word of God, and seeking to grow. I think that fits with Lent, to be sure, but also just as a general necessary catechesis, and not in a way that adds merit for the sake of salvation, of course, but a way that is actually the good life. This, especially in verses, well, all of it, I suppose, abstaining from sexual immorality, possessing your own vessel in honor, and then leading a quiet life, minding your own business and working with your own hands. This is the good life. I mean, this is what we were created for. This is the will of God, your sanctification. This isn't, that some of this is a correction against the idea of the flesh that sin is going to somehow satisfy us, right? The devil has all the good tunes. No, he doesn't.
Right.
And, he's a liar. He's always been a liar. He doesn't have all the good tunes. Oh, well, we brought it up. It came up last week or recently on this podcast. That Chesterton.
Yes.
Such a great
It's
poem.
for this week. Yeah.
Okay.
The Quinquagesima one.
Yeah, it's such a great analysis of how we stupidly lust after things that just do not satisfy. So I mean, I think that's a correction that we need and a reminder that we need, because in our weakness, we do believe the devil's lies. Sexual morality seems as though we're, I always use this with the children. I've probably used it on here. It's like we look at the law as though, it's the lifeguard telling us to not run by the pool. Mm-hmm. And, that is like the greatest place in the world to run. We want to run by the pool because, it's fun, and we're going to run and then jump and everybody's there and there's all this going on. And it just feels like the lifeguard is squashing us, And, the truth is, of course, I mean, as adults, you're able to see this differently. The pool's the worst place to run, right? It's slippery, it's concrete. You're going to get hurt badly here. So it's like we see the law so often as though it's denying us our fun. And it never is.
Yeah.
It never is. God is not, he doesn't make up arbitrary rules, and he is not interested in squashing your fun. Mm-hmm. He just knows that you're going to hurt yourself and you're going to hurt other people, and it's not going to deliver what you thought it was, ever. Yeah. It's worse than running by the pool because, you might get away with running by the pool. I mean, you might not get hurt. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to engage in sexual morality and leave your psyche and your soul and potentially even your body unscathed.
Right.
There is a cost to it. Or, I mean, I'm just using that because it's in the text, but I mean, you could say the same thing of gossip. You're not going to gossip about someone and leave your soul unscathed, mm-hmm. or your psyche or that person. I mean, that's the truth. So this is the sort of positive side of it, that what is the good life, and what is it that we really desire? You think about the sort of things that you see once in a while in the popular media about, advice from people who are 100 years old, and what do they think of their lives, and what do they regret, and what do they wish? Mm-hmm. And, it's pretty obvious in some ways, They never think, I wish I would have spent more time at work, Right. They always say things like, I wish I'd have been more forgiving. I wish I wouldn't have allowed this grudge to grow in me that destroyed my relationship with my daughter, these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And they never say, I wish I would have eaten more donuts, to use your Jocko Wilkins, right? Nobody wants to eat more donuts. I mean, you want to in the lust of the flesh in the moment, but afterwards you're not like, boy, that was great. I wish I could have eaten more donuts.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, it looks good, but it never tastes as good as it looks.
Exactly.
But there are some things that taste as good as they look.
Yeah.
But not donuts.
Not donuts.
I mean, unless you go to like an actual really great donut shop, but
we do have one here in Fort Wayne. Man, these Amish donuts are amazing. They're expensive. Fortunately, I'm not around them too often. But
Amish donuts?
Yeah, they're Amish. They're not actually. They're just donuts. The people that make them are Amish. But anyway, it doesn't matter. They're good donuts.
I think next time I go to Fort Wayne, I got to try an Amish donut.
Yeah, I'll remind me. I'll be glad to introduce you to another piece of gluttony for your life. Well, it doesn't have to be gluttony. It could be enjoyed in moderation, right?
Yeah.
On rare occasion.
Yeah.
Unlikely, but
it could be. I just always remember you telling me you love ice cream and you have it every night, or you used to.
Oh, yeah. I did used to. That was a long time ago. Jeez. Jackie still brings it up regularly. I do the grocery shopping at our house, much to her chagrin. And part of the reason I do it is so that there's no ice cream in the house.
Ah, okay.
It's fairly easy for me to be disciplined at the grocery store and to not buy garbage.
Yeah.
I find it very difficult once it's in the house.
Yeah. Same. I mean, this is part of like knowing your weaknesses.
Yeah.
So is there a part to bring up in these texts about knowing your weaknesses?
Oh, good one. Well, we don't really see her weaknesses, portrayed at all. I think that the kind of vice list that, if Paul puts it in a vice list, it's probably a serious threat. So, I started to touch on this. I don't think I finished. We're not prudes when we talk so much about sexual immorality. It is a serious threat. No one is free of it. I like this. I like this book. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but there's this book about for Christians. It's not Lutheran at all, but for dealing with pornography, and it's called Every Man's Battle. And this is a truth that we have to acknowledge, that self-pollution is a big problem, and pornography makes it way worse. So, that's the kind of sexual immorality that I think for the most part the people in our pews are dealing with. Yeah. They're not typically having extramarital affairs and the like, but they're struggling mightily with that. To possess
the one that I like is by Joe Rigney, called More Than a Battle.
Oh, I think I read that. I like him. Yeah. I listened to when you interviewed him. You didn't interview him on that though, did you?
No, but I might.
Okay, that'd be good. Yeah. I've read, there's some others too. I was trying to remember, but I liked the title of that one.
Every Man's Battle.
I think this is, let's just call this what it is. Yeah. And, quit, because we have to deal with it. If we're going to lead a chaste and decent life, it's going to require a conscious effort and training, discipline, right? External measures, all of that kind of stuff. And we ought to take it very seriously because it's a real threat to our salvation and for our children. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is that, we have to live in the world we live in. We can't go back in time. Right. And, the reality is there's no escape, I don't think, from social media, from the internet, from these things. At the same time, of course, we do need to come at them with great discipline and warning. I don't think we can cut ourselves off from them or our people from them. Right. I don't think the church has to sort of be engaged. Anyway, we have to deal with this kind of reality. And one of the big problems we have, especially for these younger people, is that they are introduced to pornography so early, and it's so prevalent and so easy for them. Yeah. And normalized. So it's really exaggerated. And I don't know why I'm talking about that. But anyway, you said, what are the weaknesses in the text? I mean, there it is. What does it mean to possess your own vessel in sanctification and honor? Not like the Gentiles. I think that
is there sometimes, unfortunately, people use the word pornography as like for anything that someone likes to delve into. And is there a sense in which we could use that, kind of broaden that term, not to make it meaningless, but what's pornography for women? Do they have the same kind of struggle there, or is it different?
I think they do now. I don't think they used to, but I do not. You mean like talking about looking at Instagram, living rooms, and
so part of what pornography does, besides all the awful things that is clear, is it idealizes something that isn't real. Right. So is that a generalization that could be made, across the sexes?
It could, but I wouldn't. You would. I think you're absolutely right. I think this is a huge problem for all of us, that because we are faced with these idealized images, whether that's of the dinner table or of marriage or of the marriage bed. There is a certain sense in which it leads to dissatisfaction and the like. So I think you're absolutely right that that's and more of a modern phenomena than existed before. Even people, being worried about how much sleep they're getting, right. And in a way that's
tracking everything.
Right. So there is this sort of just jealousy and envy and all these things that come. But I think that pornography has to be, I think we we cheapen the wickedness of pornography when we talk about food porn.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's not what I was intending, because I
I
know
know it wasn't.
we do use that in a way that does cheapen it.
Yeah.
But I'm
Well,
just trying to think: is there a larger principle at work that would kind of envelop not only actual pornography but all those other things?
Well, I mean, I think it's just the lust of the eyes.
Yeah.
But I mean, here the word is actually sexual immorality. So porn, I think here it isn't just talk. It's not a broader principle. It's a sixth commandment particularity. I think the next one, that you should know how to possess your own vessel in honor, not like the Gentiles. I think that probably is referring mainly to the desire for glory. That is, that we would act in a way that's honorable before God, as opposed to seeking glory among men. And, that's a big problem in the ancient world. But I think it still exists. It's just sort of underground a little bit. We do care, and we need to care some about, the opinions of men, but we care too much, and we will sometimes sacrifice integrity and goodness, seeking the approval of men, or, in the sort of most modern digital context, this sort of dopamine rush that comes from, likes on Facebook or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a constant issue, desiring the accolades of man.
Yeah. I mean, and again, there is a right place for it. We should care about the opinions of our brothers. We should seek their approval in the sense of, and their rebukes, and make sure we're doing things in accord. And those who do well deserve praise. I mean, these are all true things that we're not dismissing. This doesn't mean you shouldn't praise your children when they do well. You should, or your brothers. But at the same time, there's just like the marriage bed, it just can go awry very quickly. The solution is not to get rid of the marriage bed or to get rid of, honor among men. It's rather that we don't love that so much. I always thought, in fact, I thought that this quote from Chrysostom, it's not from Chrysostom, that the road to hell is paved with the skulls of priests.
Yeah.
That is not actually in his book on the priesthood. I would have bet $100. I don't bet money, but I really thought it was in there. And it's a great sentiment anyway, that because what he does talk about in there is the folly of preachers is the desire for praise.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought that the road to hell was paved with their skulls, but I guess it isn't. Anyway, it is certainly a problem for preachers, but I don't think it's probably exactly unique.
So kind of one last thing. In what way are we, or do we find ourselves in the same position as this Canaanite woman? In other words, how are we Canaanites living in like pagan world, surrounded by demons?
Well, I think what I was thinking was, we are like her in that we ask God for stuff and it doesn't seem like he gives it. We definitely have to learn to live by faith, and we don't know what we're asking for, and we don't understand what he says often, and yet we have to keep plodding on by faith. I guess I don't want to call myself a Canaanite living in, maybe
we're not Canaanites, but maybe we're believers living in Canaan,
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that absolutely. And yeah, that's right. We are
living. In what ways, how are we like Lot, right? How are we inviting some of these demonic things by the very nature of where we live,
right,
and where we reside, and the loyalties that we have to, the soil upon which we were raised, and our own families and friends.
Right. Well, it's nothing new under the sun in that sense, but I do think again that this sort of exposure to things that it's hard to shelter our children.
Yeah.
And they need to be sheltered. You can't go to the public library and just assume what they get there is good because it's in a book. Books are not. I really grew up thinking that books were good.
Right.
Books were just good, and that was the understanding in our household. I could go to the book library and get any book I wanted. It was encouraged to do so, and nobody ever checked to see what was in it. In a sense, not
right.
that they did, because there was just, but that just isn't true. It probably wasn't true then either, but it's patently false now that we do need to censor and shelter our children because they're children. And probably also, not probably, we need to censor ourselves also. I've been saying for years, this idea that we're somehow mature enough to take, that we're sort of mature enough so that, we can see sexually explicit things in R-rated movies and not be caused to sin.
Right.
That's ridiculous. We're not, Yeah. So
I know it's horrible. But even just the language too.
Right, all of it. It does have an impact on our souls. It does change us. We are, right. These things come in through our eyeballs and our ears and into our hearts. And what are you filling yourself with? And it's pushing out. The other thing is it pushes out, just like it works the other way too. That's the good news. But when you take that stuff in, you're pushing out what is good.
Yeah.
There is this wonderful thing about all this plasticity of the brain, which is a fairly new concept and idea within the last 20 years. The bad news about the plasticity of the brain is if you don't use it, you will lose it. So if you don't, develop these habits and do these things, you'll just lose the capacity to do them. And that's why you forget. But the good news is, and so you'll be training your brain for bad stuff. But the good news is you can train it the other way.
Yeah.
You can recarve your own brain and, create these irrigation ditches or canals that the thoughts will run along and keep. So the landscape can be changed and you have agency. And I think that's a marvelous gift that we have some agency in our own mental health and spiritual health.
Yeah. Well, that's the big complaint I hear is they always feel helpless.
Yeah. Well, then, right, do these things, right? Recite the catechism, read the Bible, say your prayers, go to church, turn off the bad stuff.
Right.
These really, I like this McCraven, or not is that right? Did I get the name right? Yeah. That McCraven guy, he says, right, these things they're simple, they're not easy.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nice distinction.
Yeah, it's an important distinction.
Yeah. All right, any final thoughts?
No, sir.
Surprise, surprise. All right, well, thanks for your time, Dave, and we'll pick up with Lent 3.
All right.